Hey y'all,
What's up, y'all?
I'm Elise,
And I'm Will.
and this is Team
Team
Tatum.
Tatum.
Team Tatum.
We're watching the 1001 Movies You Must Watch Before You Die 2020 edition. And today's movie is 1960 horror movie Black Sunday, directed by Mario Bava.
Yep,
What do you know about this movie?
absolutely nothing. Never heard of it before a day in my life.
I had seen this cover before. I hadn't heard of it, but I've seen the poster for it before. Full disclosure, when I picked this out of the list,
Mm-hmm.
I 100%, though I read Black Sunday, in my brain, it was Black Christmas.
Mm.
So, this is our first movie for October, starting off horror. So that's going to be the theme of this month. It's generally what we do. Even before this list, we try to watch mostly horror, thriller type
That's
movies
our thing.
for the whole month. Like that's our thing, which is hard now in year what 12 of our marriage because we've watched a lot of horror and thriller stuff. So it's hard finding stuff new, but we do always go back to our favorites. But anyway, uh, yeah. So we talked about whether or not we had heard of this movie or not. This is I've never heard of this director. Don't come for me, but he is a famous Italian director, uh, which I've we figured that out in the first couple minutes of the movie, where she was like, "They are not speaking English."
Mm.
The mouth
The
ain't
lips
the
are
lips
not
ain't right.
matching the words.
And because we've watched quite a few Italian films at this point, and I've done the trivia on it, I recognize that this may be an Italian movie. And with Italian movies at that time, they didn't record any audio, so they would always dub their movies. It was easier to just let the set be doing whatever it's doing. So anything in the background, somebody dropped something, somebody moving from point A to point B, they had to worry about trying to keep the set quiet or cleaning that up.
There was no quiet on set.
Right. Uh, so they would always dub it, even if they were speaking English. Like if it was an English, like an American release, so everybody's speaking English, or at least majority of the actors are speaking English, which is the case in this movie. They just always, again, during that time period, I don't know when they stopped, but yeah.
Never. They still do it.
But yeah, so this movie is a bad dub essentially, but that's what you get when you watch Italian movies of this era.
Also, there are a lot of Italian movies on this list now that I think about it.
Probably.
Why though? Looking at
Cinephiles
you,
love Italians.
whoever made this list.
I forget the guy's name.
Man,
I want to say it starts with an S, like his last name starts with an S, but whatever.
Russell
We'll put
Simmons.
it in post. Uh, so yeah, this is a 1960 horror. The premise is this princess gets accused of being a witch because back in the day people did not play about folks potentially being witches, and so her and her servant.
But this time she actually was a witch, wasn't she? Or something.
No, she
She dealt
wasn't.
with something dark.
No, so it was her own brother. It'd be your own people. It was her own brother that sentenced her to death,
Mm-mm.
accusing her of being a witch, and she was like, "I ain't a witch, but if you gonna kill me anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and make an allegiance to Satan, and I curse your whole family."
Correction. I had sex with Kate.
And she did. So it's about the story of that, essentially. But now we'll get into spoilers and talk about the movie.
Warning, spoilers ahead.
So the movie starts off great. First, like 15 minutes is great. It's like it gets your attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off with a bunch of torches, and this is in black and white, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off with a bunch of torches, angry mob, that type of thing, and the main lady, who's Barbara Lee, Barbara Steele, Barbara Steele is the main lady. I don't think anybody else is of any importance, and if they are, whatever.
Not whatever.
So she's getting put up to the stake. They're tying her up. Her brother is letting you know what's happening, that she's been accused of being a witch. She's protesting and all that. They rip the back of her dress and brand her with the mark of Satan, which is just an S. It's just a brand.
He said, hey, you
with
know
an
what it
S.
stands for.
And then the wild thing happens, which is one of the most impressive things to me in this movie. So they're like, now not only are we going to mark you with the mark of Satan, but
You gotta wear this mask.
you got to wear this mask. Oh, also in Europe, this is called the Mask of Satan.
Yeah,
Not
it said
Black
it
Sunday.
on the title. Like when it.
Well, I know it said it, but I was like, why do they have two different titles? But yeah, in America, you know, because we don't play that mess in America in 1960. Yeah, so it's called Black Sunday, which was terrible enough at the time, but in Europe, it's the Mask of Satan. Anywho, he's like, you got to wear the Mask of Satan, and the Mask of Satan is this brass mask with nails on the inside.
You've
So
seen it before, probably.
it's like an Iron Maiden, but just the mask, right? And the shot is a pretty cool shot. It starts off from her point of view, and so you're seeing through the actress's eyes as the mask is coming towards her. The executioner is bringing it, and then like it changes within an instant of the same motion of the executioner bringing the mask to her, and they put it up to her face, and then another executioner comes with a big old sledgehammer and hammers that mess in.
One hit.
Right. They did it to her servant first, and she watched like in horror, yelling, and that's when she started like cursing her brother. And she was like, "I'm gonna get you and your descendants, aka her descendants, because that's her brother." But she's like, "I don't care, all y'all can get it."
I ain't never liked y'all. No, I ain't like how your hair was growing in.
And then he's like, "After we do that, we gonna burn your body, right?" And then it starts raining, and so they're basically like, "Oh man, like."
They did start burning.
Yeah, they still start burning her, but the rain was like putting out the fire. So he was like, "You know what? I got another thing. We're gonna bury you in your family's tomb with the mask on, and yeah, that'll show you." And I was like,
yeah. Oh, and they put something on her, a little fold up thing, and it was basically like that was what was keeping her.
"Oh no.
Entombed."
So over her tomb, her casket has a glass window, so you can see her face. But it's not to see her face, it's so that she can see this cross. They put a cross on top of the casket, so they said that her, spirit or whatever is gonna look at that cross, and that's gonna keep her at bay.
But what was that fold up thing?
What? I don't remember fold up
It
thing.
was like a trifold, little metal something.
Oh, that was
It
also
told,
just
the story of what happened to her.
a religious artifact to further. That was just added security. Is what that was. So that's how the movie starts off, and then it goes to 200 years later, and you were on this carriage ride with a doctor and I guess his like apprentice, and they're riding the carriage and they're going to the town that she's from or wherever. I think this took place somewhere in Russia. I could be wrong about that, but they're going to town and there's a fork in the road, and the guy driving the carriage the guy driving the carriage is like, "I'm gonna go to the left," and the doctor's like, hold up a sec, "Hey, go to the right, it's quicker, we got to make it to this convention." So they're going to a doctor's convention. He said, "We got to make it to this convention." He was like, "No sir, that goes through the cemetery and a witch haunts that. I'm not messing with that cemetery." And he was like, "Boy, take this gold coin." And the guy apparently ain't that scared, because he take the gold coin, but then he also take like a hit of vodka.
His money.
And so he goes to the right towards the cemetery. Of course, something happens to the carriage. He claims a tree branch reached out to grab him, and he went off the road and knocked off one of the wheels. And so they chilling in the carriage, and then they start hearing a noise, And this is where the movie like gets into its. There's no other way for this to happen. So, I like to call this my white people can't help themselves moment, because they can't. Like, I'm not gonna be in a place where a guy who's from there says we don't go over here because of whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. We as a people of this town, we don't take this road. You pay me to go on this road, and then when we break down, conveniently, and you start hearing a strange noise, why would you go over there?
They're like, let's go explore that.
They literally say, let's go find out what that is. Why are you doing this? Like, it's dark, it's creepy, you can't, like, there's only the moonlight that's giving you any sort of light. They don't got no lanterns or nothing, but they like, let's go over there. But without people like this, where would we be for horror movies? We wouldn't have them. So it's a double-edged sword. Anyway, they go check it out and they find a tomb, like a crypt, and they continue on. So they find that the source of the sound is coming from the crypt, and instead of being like, they were like, let's go inside the crypt. So they go up inside there, and they find out it's an old organ. The pipes were still there, and the wind was blowing through the pipes. Why was there an organ in the crypt? Tell me that. What sense does that make to have a functional organ in a crypt? But that's neither here nor there. So the dude, for no reason, the doctor has a cane. He just like, see, it's just a bunch of pipe organs. Bow! Knocks it down with his cane for no reason. Organs didn't do nothing to him.
You don't even know what they do.
But he knocks him down with his cane. So then he starts exploring. Apprentice ain't said nothing. Apprentice is just following him. I wouldn't have been following that man, not nowhere. So they stumble across the princess's tomb or whatever, right? And they see the glass. They wipe the glass clean, and it's like, oh, look at this. And they see the mask, and the apprentice does finally ask, like, why is this glass here? What's going on? And the doctor, for whatever reason, knows this, I guess, practice.
Yeah, ritual.
And he explains what we already explained about the keeping her at bay. You would think that would be the final straw for them to be like, all right, let's get up out of here. But nah. The apprentice does say, I'm out. And he goes back to the carriage to see if he can help out the driver. But the doctor steady being nosy, right? And so while he being nosy, this giant bat comes out of nowhere. And when I say giant, I mean football-sized, comically large bat comes out of nowhere on this little string. And the doctor starts swinging at it with his cane again. And, the bat just... because the size of a football, like, what a cane gonna do against me? I don't care. Just harassing him. Finally, he while he's trying to like bash the bat, he hits the tomb and breaks the glass and knocks over the cross. So that's bad. And then finally pulls out the blicky, bow, shoots the bat, right? And then he's just like, well, that's done. And at this point, the apprentice has come back and he's like, what's happening? He's like, man, this bat came out of nowhere. It just started attacking me. Well, in his flailing about, he cut himself on the glass. And so blood is starting to drip onto the corpse. Which,
you know how that goes.
Right. He also takes the mat. Now that the thing is open, he moves the glass out the way and then removes the mask, nails and all, because it's all one piece. And so it was a pretty cool shot of the corpse, and you see the holes.
It looked real gross.
Like all in the face, yeah, it looked pretty gross. Especially for her. She hates like a lot of holes. What's that called?
Tryptophobia or something like that.
Yeah. Also, the body this is 200 years later. She still looks like fresh.
Like she just got killed yesterday.
Right. Like there's not skeleton that you're looking at. It's our face just with holes in it, right? Oh, she doesn't have any eyeballs because 2 of the nails go into your eyes, so it's just sockets. or whatever, right? But her nose, her lips, cheekbones, all that stuff still good. And then
They're like, that's strange that she's still fresh. I was like, oh, she's still juicy. But that was the most they had. They were like, that's strange. Oh, well, let's keep doing stuff we shouldn't be doing.
and then like it's like a thunderclap, or they hear her voice and they see the chick in the doorway to the crypt, with these two hounds. Like she has these two like hounds of Baskerville, that type of deal. She's dressed in all black, and they not that freaked out about it. They go up and talk to it, and she's like, y'all should not be here right now. And they're like, you know what? That's crazy. We was just waiting on the carriage to get fixed so we can go into town. We going in the the town over here for this medical convention. And she's like, yeah, you should probably go do that. She's super calm about it. But the apprentice, he's immediately stricken, like smitten, not stricken, smitten with her. He's like, who's that? She's beautiful.
She's cool. She's hot. She's your baby sister, man.
He has hearts in his eyes, feet floating up behind him.
All of it.
In love.
But she's being super creepy. So the actress who plays it this is like her first role, and she went on to become like a horror icon. She does have a horror look to it, so I can give it that. But she just kind of stares at them as they drive off, and it lingers on her for a while, and nothing happens, and then it's just like them in town. So to fast forward a little bit, because I wasn't trying to do play by play, I just had to set it up, because this is all like really good. After this, I ain't gonna lie, it just kind of went downhill for me. Nothing was as intriguing or exciting as this first like 15, maybe 20 minutes. So they're in town, and you find there's a prince, but he should be a king. He's an old man, but he's called Prince so and so. I don't know why he's not a king. And he's got two kids. He's got a daughter and a son, and the daughter is also played by Barbara Steele. So she's an exact spitting image of her, or whatever, right?
You do know that the woman that they saw was that woman, the daughter, right?
No, she was still in the castle.
But those were her two dogs. Remember the dogs that were at the castle?
Was that her?
Yeah.
I could have swore that was just her ghost.
But they were supposed to think it was her ghost because she looked just like her.
Well, I stand corrected. But yeah, so the prince starts freaking out, and he's like, today is whatever day it was. And he was like, the last time, it was like the last century, there's rumor that she can't, like, he ain't alive at this time, but he done heard the family rumor that the witch had come back and exacted revenge and killed a few folk. And he's scared it's going to happen again, because apparently it happened when one of the women of the lineage was born and looked exactly like her. And he was like, my daughter looks exactly the same. And he's also looking at this painting on the wall, and he's like, that painting looks different than what it did yesterday. And he's freaking out, and his kids are like, Dad, you're just being weird.
Tripping,
Dad. But little does he know, he is absolutely correct, and that today is that day, and she is coming back, especially now that she got this blood. So it keeps going back and forth throughout the time of the movie of showing the crypt and her face is regenerating. So like slowly her eye sockets are filling back up.
You look nasty.
Pretty cool effect though. And like the holes are closing up in her face, and basically she's regenerating or whatever. She's coming back to how she was before she got killed that night. And the doctor winds up coming back to the crib, and he gets hypnotized by her, and she resurrects her. Now she can't move. She's still like in her tomb. She explodes out of the tomb, but like it's the walls of the the casket blow away, but she's just still laying there. She can move her head a little bit, but she can't get up.
She looks like Snow White when she's
Yeah.
out in the woods laying on that, whatever that's called.
But I guess again can't help himself because of his ethnic background. I don't know. But he goes back to the crib and gets hypnotized by the witch, and so now he's possessed essentially.
Yeah, he's her minion.
Yeah, she resurrects her assistant. He comes up Thriller style out of his grave. He was buried someplace else. He don't pop and lock when he gets to the top though. But he starts regenerating, and the doctor possessed winds up going back to the castle, killing the prince. So he dead. His kids find him. They start freaking out at what happened to him, but they just left him not that long ago.
And right before he went to bed, he killed him while he was in bed. Before he went to bed, he was telling them, like, something is happening. Please believe me.
Right, and he kept talking about the painting. Eventually, the daughter did notice that the painting was different. But yeah, so long story short, the daddy died. The butler dies. Some other dude that I didn't even know, I thought was the butler, but turns out it wasn't the butler. Huh?
The young one.
Young what?
Man.
What young man?
Who are you talking about?
Remember they said they found somebody dead. They found somebody dead, and I was like, that's the butler. But then we saw the butler
somebody
later.
else that worked at the house.
But
it's
yeah,
a castle. They got a lot of people that work.
A lot of people that work there. Pretty much the opening death is the only real, like for real death, with her and her assistant getting killed. Everybody else is kind of like a off camera
they just
kind of
tell
deal.
You that they did later or something.
Or like it flashes, like you see someone attack them, but then
and then the shadow, and then they did.
But I think like 5 people died, maybe, and I think that's including the witch and her apprentice. So I was expecting like her to come wreck shop on the town. Like I know
the city.
She said, "I'm killing your family. Like I'm coming back to exact revenge on your family." So technically, she only should have killed 3 people. But also she kills nobody. Like it's the apprentice, like her apprentice,
she gets them to do her dirty
and
work.
the doctor that she possessed that does the dirty work. Like she just chilling in the crypt the whole time. It's not until she fully regenerates, which is like the end of the movie, and the doctor's assistant goes back to the crib and with the princess, the actual current day princess. And the next cool thing happens in the movie where he sees them both, but then all of a sudden he doesn't know which one is which, and the witch has on his her black robe, and he like pulls at her and it pulls back the robe, and instead of her being nude, it's just skeleton. And it was a pretty cool effect.
Juicy skeleton.
Yeah, it's like nice rotten zombie, like just like all of this, her torso is just skeletal and juices and melted guts and all that. So that was a pretty cool shot. But like I said, that's towards the end of the movie. And then by this point the angry mob done got into the mix because they found somebody in town dead, and so they come with their torches and pitchforks, and the doctor's assistant's like, there she is right there, and like both of the ladies, both versions of Barbara Steele are standing right there, and they take the one that he points at.
That ain't right.
No problem. No, what? That ain't right. Whatever. Oh yeah, she was unconscious on the thing.
Yeah, the witch was laid out on whatever that thing is called.
Whatever slab that was.
And the princess was laying beside her, but her arm was like up, and the witch touched her hand, and she was sucking the princess's life out, and that's how the witch regenerated herself. She was sucking the princess's life out, and so by the time the prince got in there, she had fully regenerated, and he thought that he was talking to the princess and that it was still the witch on the thing, because her face, like the princess's face, had gotten all like sunken in and everything, aged a little bit from her life being sucked out.
Right.
And he noticed that the princess had on this necklace the whole movie with a cross on it. And he looked and saw that the person that was laying down had that necklace on. And he was like, I could have sworn that they said you couldn't be around no crosses. How you got this cross on your neck? And so he took it and put it towards the witch, and she was like, and he's like, I knew it. He didn't know it apparently, but he's like, I got you. And then that was how the angry mob knew who the bad one was. But they were about to kill the princess laid out on the thing at first.
Yes. Totally messed that up. But yeah, then, you know, they have the little Disney I met you 2 days ago. Not even 2 days ago. 24 hours.
Yeah.
I love you kiss.
1.5 tops.
And
let's get married.
Movie's over.
Now.
Her
dogs got killed. The princess.
Oh, yeah, they did kill them dogs.
You heard her. They were like, what happened to the dogs? They ran up. The dogs were laid out. I didn't know that they were dead. It looked like they were just scared and laid on the floor. They were like, oh no. But allegedly, they had their throat slit. That's what they told us later.
Yeah, like the next scene, they were like, they found the dogs with the throat slit. We're missing stuff because I was really trying not to play by play it. But yeah, it wasn't. But 1960, I get it. It was probably like Clutching Pearls type of horror. I mean, you got people being accused of being witches. You got now that opening scene. All of that was legit, like not scary, but horror. You know what I'm saying? Like getting a mask full of nails sledgehammered into your face while you're alive is crazy. And then getting burned on top of that, like that's just insult to injury.
If that didn't kill you, this
burning will. And then they buried her alive. But yeah, just it was 1960 scary, you know, dealing with the supernatural. So tidbit, they were supposed to be vampires.
That's what I was getting the feel of.
But they so the guy Bava had prosthetic teeth, but then he didn't like how they looked on films, and he was like, you know what, scratch the whole vampire thing, and threw it out. But yeah, they were supposed to be vampires. And allegedly her assistant, though not stated in the movie, was supposed to be her brother. She had a brother, another brother besides the one that was put under death, and they had an incestuous relationship, which added to the y'all gotta go.
Say y'all messing up our family lineage over here.
Right.
Had to get y'all out.
And yeah, like other than that opening part, and then her being creepy. Well, now I know that it was Katia, the princess, being, you know, creepy in the doorway to the crypt before they wound up going into town. Like nothing really stuck with me. Like you had the fog and it was because it was black and white. It was all dark and moody and all that, but like there was no tension. I was never like, look out, girl. Like what?
Well, we did tell them a few times, like, get up, go the other way. Stop doing that. Don't do that. Clearly that doesn't work.
Yeah,
we yelled at the screen a few times.
We yelled because it was dumb, but not like I was on edge about it. Like I was concerned about them for real. I was just like, you're stupid.
Don't you fall in that hole.
You better not fall in that hole. One dude backed up into a hole.
Fell in that hole.
Like you didn't feel that hole back there. Your arms were back here where the hole was, and you were just like, oh.
We told him.
And fell back. I was like, what up, you idiot? But yeah, so this, I know for people who have seen this, they hold it up super high. I do not think it needs to be up there. So go ahead and get into my review. I give Black Sunday 2.5 out of 5 Cowboy Ninjas. Like it just did not hold my attention. I was with it. I was on board that first up until she died. No, I was on board until they got into town. So everything that happened until they got into town, I was on board with. Once they got into town, I was just like, I don't care. They did have the cool shots after they got into the town with the over time in the course of the movie, her face regenerating, and then at the end of the movie showing the zombie chest. But like that didn't make up for the rest of the movie that I had to watch. I definitely don't think this deserves to be on the 1001 movies you watch before you die. I know it sparked a lot of inspiration. Like a lot of people within the genre talks about this movie, giving them inspiration and all that. More power to them. But I'm out. You?
Well, I did not hate the movie. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
My 2.5 is a dislike, not a hate.
Can I tell what I got
Okay,
to say?
my bad. I'll just state my case that I didn't hate the movie.
I didn't say you hated it. I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't love the movie either. And I felt like it was lingering on a little bit. It was like, get to what you're talking about, get to what you're getting to at certain parts. And like they were explaining stuff way too deep. Like, we get it. We know what's going on. We knew this before you even tried to explain it. You could just tell what was happening.
Right.
It needed no explanation in here. And so that's what I didn't like about it. I did like the visual effects in it, as William said, and
Special effects.
And they were special visual effects. But anyway, I like the effects in it, and I liked. That's all. And that is all that I liked. But on the same note, I do feel like this movie deserves to be on the 1001 movies you should watch before you die list because of it being an inspiration for future films and also because of the special effects that were in it. I feel like they were pretty advanced. Like, even when we were watching, I was like, this is really good for this year. I say for this year.
They were really nice for 1960.
Yeah. And I was like even impressed while watching it, then reflecting on it, I was still impressed. So I do feel like it deserves to be on the list. However, I am going to rate the movie by giving it 2 cowboy ninjas out of 5.
Oh, Lord of me.
I did not like it. But I didn't hate it. But I did not like it. But I do appreciate its contribution to the film industry and the horror genre. So I'm not gonna hate on it. That's all I have. I broke him.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like, I mean, we're pretty much done here, but I'm just thinking horror. I said that sounded weird.
Horror.
The
Chucky, what happened? The horror.
horror wise, to compare it to like Suspiria, which we've already reviewed, Suspiria had more horror stuff in it.
I like this movie more than I like Suspiria.
See, okay, so I was gonna say horror wise, Suspiria had more stuff. Like, it was more like, man, and especially for the time, it's like that's some wild stuff to be showing, and it was throughout the movie. Now, the movie itself, wasn't a fan, garbage. This was better, like Elise said, but horror wise, it wasn't really. And again, I'm trying to put myself in 1960 shoes. I can understand how crazy this was in 1960, but that doesn't hold up in 2024. But I can acknowledge, knowing how people were in 1960, they was definitely freaking out.
I feel like this wasn't a gory horror type movie. This was more of like a psychological horror, because people, like you were saying back then, this was taboo to them.
Yeah.
To be watching, and so it messes with your mental when you watch it back then, because you're not thinking about that kind of stuff, and now you're like, oh, who that?
Right. And I don't need it to be gory, because like I hate Hostel. The movie Hostel, that's just straight gore. And that was like, it's some pretty ridiculous, like in a good way, deaths in Hostel, but I was like, I'm not entertained except for when these deaths, kind of basically like Suspiria, where it's like everything sucks but the deaths in the movie. This, like I said, visually it was nice, but there was no tension. And yes, it's like more of a psychological thing, but it was only like, in my brain, it's a psychological horror for the people of 1960.
Yeah.
They were just being like, people were a lot more religious then, or at least they pretended to be a lot more religious because it was taboo not to be religious, right? And to have this witch and Satan and reverse
Something
decomposing
like
bodies, and all that stuff, like, slitting dogs' throats that didn't do nothing to you. I'm saying the dogs didn't do nothing to get their throat slit. Like,
I know what you said.
Burning a body alive. Oh, so the dad comes back to life with the power of the witch, but they knocked that dude into the fireplace. Which I called early on, well before this happened.
We were like, somebody get
knocked into this fireplace. Because in the beginning of the movie, we called it the beginning of the movie. I was like, why is that fireplace like out so far? Like, he's sitting in a chair. The fireplace is where like your coffee table would be, but the hearth of it, like the stone and all that, was farther back. But the fire,
it was a walk-in fireplace.
Yeah, it was like a walk-in fireplace. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, why is it so far up? Put that mess back to where the chimney is. Like, the smoke
has to be coming back into
the room. It wasn't even going into the chimney. I was like, somebody's clearly gonna trip and fall into that fire, and sure enough, he did. But yeah, it was just, I was just waiting for the movie to be over. Like, I wasn't, the story didn't grip me. The acting was, nothing to write home about. But yeah, I just didn't. But it's better than Suspiria, so it has that. And that's been another review of 1001 movies you must watch before you die. We hope that you comment below on your thoughts and concerns. Tell us how wrong we are about this classic. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it? Share it, like, subscribe. We are on our way, slowly but surely, to get through this list. And this has been another episode of Team Tatum.